It's your boy Katina here, and today I'll be talking about the Elemental Shaman and PvP. I'll be focusing on what works and what doesn't on the topics of survivability, talents, and damage output, along with discussing what I like or dislike the most within the Elemental Shaman for this pre-patch. Note, many things are subject to change once the actual expansion releases, and a few of these strategies may change. Keep in mind, a lot of the video is not the best editing, but I'm still new and still trying to learn how to use most of the features on my editor. But without delay, here's my Elemental PvP guide. I hope you enjoy. First topic we're going to discuss is survivability, where the Shaman definitely does not shine compared to most classes that there are. The first spell we have is Astral Shift. This is the most useful spell we have in terms of survivability. This is actually one of the only useful spells that we actually have. The next spell we have is Hex, the most useless spell we have. This spell has a huge cooldown for what it is, and even if you manage to get it off, they can control their character still, and any damage they take will immediately take it off. In terms of survivability, this is a horrible spell, and with all the lock dots and melee AoE, it is almost impossible to actually keep anyone hexed for longer than 1 to 2 seconds. Overall, this spell is more hurtful than helpful because melee will just follow you, and now you have 2 seconds give or take closer because you had to cast it in the first place, and range will just run away or interrupt you in the first place. The next spell is Thunderstorm, everyone's most favorite troll spell. This spell has become almost obsolete in terms of survivability because every melee has some sort of charge, sprint, or pull to get right back to you. This ability is mostly only used in Arathi Bison on the Flagmill flag or Eye of the Storm to knock people off the bridge where the flag is. Other than that, using this to survive is very minimal. Next we have Gust of Wind, a talent, the only viable of its tier. In terms of survivability, this spell is actually really good, but again, pretty much every melee class has a charge, sprint, or pull, and that's if you don't get stunned or rooted when you cast it. It also won't affect range much at all either, and that's kinda sad. So which talent should I pick? Well, everyone's playstyle for the most part is different, but in my personal opinion, these are the talents that I use, and they seem to work pretty well for me. First I picked Path of Flame, then Gust of Wind, Lightning Surge Totem, Echo of the Elements, Ice Fury, Aftershock, and then Ascendance. These talents so far have been pretty good for me, although once the expansion is released and PvP talents and a higher level cap comes into play, these are subject to change. And remember, a few talents are completely up to you and are viable in a few different situations, so choose carefully. Now we get into the tier 3 talents. First we have Lightning Surge Totem. It's pretty hard to land though due to its 2 seconds delay before it stuns. Then we have Earth Grab Totem, yet another decent totem, but at the same time it's pretty hard to keep people rooted. Then we have Voodoo Totem. Just don't use that one, it's bad. As you've concluded, Elemental Shamans have some pretty bad survivability, so let's move on to the damage. I know what you're probably thinking right now, and it's that Shamans do a lot of damage, right? But guess what? You're wrong! Shaman damage output is low. Looking at this clip here, you can see that Shamans do hardly no damage at all. During this, I'm free casting and didn't get interrupted once. I know I'm not using cooldowns, but even without cooldowns, I should have decently more damage output than I do in this clip. The highest damaging lava burst I got was 20k, and that's kinda sad considering it's our strongest attack. Here in this clip, you'll notice that Shamans do not do completely terrible damage, just as long as there's nothing attacking you and you can free cast for the most part. 1v1 is completely terrible, with very few exceptions on what class you are going against. If you have anything more than one enemy on you, you're going to die, and that's just plain and simple. The problem I see with this is not because we don't have enough strong damage, but we don't have enough mobility spells, or at the very least efficient CC spells to keep them off of you for any amount of time. So it always just plays out into you getting to cast 1 to 2 spells opening, and then you are just running for your life, hoping that RNG God saves you. Elemental Shaman has become completely RNG, and you just have to hope that RNG is on your side at the time. Here in this clip, we see a perfect example of how shamans can survive one-on-one and do a pretty decent job. But whenever you factor in 2v1, there's literally nothing one shaman can do to even get away from 2 melees, especially if you're going against a rogue. There's nothing a shaman can do to counter a rogue. Even if it's one-on-one, you're going to die, and that's just it. How does one optimize damage output? Well, what I do is I cast Flame Shock on everyone around me. After you have Flame Shocked the person you are going to kill, cast Lava Burst, followed by Ice Fury, then follow up with another Lava Burst. Then Frost Shock 4 times using Lava Burst on Elemental Overlord procs. You can use CCs to help stop melee from moving or keep casters from doing a little less damage to you while you are fighting. So my conclusion / rant about Elemental Shamans in this expansion pre-patch is that they are not too good in contrast with other specs. Shamans took a huge hit during Warlords of Draenor, taking away our ability to cast Lightning Bolt while moving, which hindered our ability to have damage while moving that wasn't just RNG. They somewhat fixed that with Ice Fury this expansion, but I would rather have Ice Fury do 2/3 or even 1/3 the damage it does to remove Ice Fury's cooldown, to make kiting melee a bit easier. I also think Hex is completely useless. The only way it should even be implemented into the game is if it was an instant cast. How does it make sense that we have a polymorph like spell that has such a long cooldown and can be interrupted, and if it is, you have to wait the whole cooldown? Also, I cast a 2-second lightning bolt and do 8 to 14,000 damage on a crit to a player with around 500 to 600,000 health. This is pathetic. With an average cast time around 1.6 seconds and an average damage in PvP to around 10,000, that is 96 seconds worth of free casting to kill someone without accounting for any type of healing or defensive abilities. Even if Lava Burst crits for 20,000, that is still 30 casts to kill a warrior. We also have no shields, which gave us 10% damage reduction when glyphed properly. Maelstrom generation is a joke. It depletes just as fast as Rage does when out of combat, and it takes roughly 17 times longer to build it up. Before, your stacks of Lightning Shield would not deplete when out of combat. PvP damage is laughable. Now the time to kill has been tripled for Shamans, while the time to kill Shamans have dropped. On top of that, you nerfed Ascendance by adding another minute to the cooldown and made Lava Burst just hit like a wussy. Let's talk about mobility. If you want to move out of melee range as a Shaman, you are the only class in the game who has a shapeshift into a form rendering you unable to deal damage just so you can move. Since Ghostwolf does not break root/snares like it should, Shamans just get destroyed by any and every melee class in the game. Sure, you can use Wind Gust to get some distance, unless you get stunned or rooted while you cast it. After you land, you will still only have 1 to 2 seconds of uptime, and that's only if your enemy cannot break a slow or has a slow on them. So you can cast once every 15 seconds if you are lucky enough to not be facing a warrior, rogue, druid, DK, enhanced shaman, or ret with freedom. Overall, I am extremely disappointed with this expansion for elemental shamans, but I will continue to play them. I feel that they are completely underpowered compared to any other class. I feel like I have to work 3 times harder than any other class to get somewhat decent damage, and just hope no one attacks me or I become completely useless, and I just have to become a distraction for my team to kill the enemies on me while I try to run around and survive, causing no damage besides the random free casts I get. On top of that, I still can't attack, because even if I do, they'll just catch up to me and kill me. With all that being said, that concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. Comment on what you liked or disliked, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Peace.